The ever popular country versus city, city versus country. We are here today with Chris and Maddie from River Realty in Maitland. We're going to tell you where that is and what's happening shortly.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, Chris Henry, and Madison Woodward. Good to have you guys on for episode 402. We're getting on. Excited about this morning to talk about the sort of the Newcastle market, Maitland in particular, where you guys specialise, because there's a lot happening. Infrastructure, a lot of money the state government spending there, more buyers even locally. Of the northern beaches are considering mostly buying investments out there, but also looking to move a little bit north of the northern beaches. So it'd be good to get your views from on the ground. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you, Michael? Mark?
Good, legend.
Team. Your city
good.
Down there are doing some incredible work, so it's great to catch up.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit of what you do, your company, a bit of background, where you're working, and then we'll get into the sort of specifics.
Yeah, perfect. So our office is located in Maitland, which is about 30 minutes inland from Newcastle, right on the Hunter River. And we're about 2 hours north from you guys. And, we're very close to vineyards, plenty of wine up this way. Great beaches and plenty of lifestyle. So there's about 34 of us in the business, sales, property management, maintenance, projects. So a lot of activity up here in the Hunter.
So you're in between. So you're sort of between the Hunter and Newcastle.
Right in the heart.
You're the best of both worlds. Just a quick question. I'm not really well travelled around Australia, I think like a lot of Australians, but we're just going to show you where it is. But my question is, why is Maitland why am I so familiar with Maitland? Like, what are they known for over the years? Because Maitland, if you said to me I'm from Maitland, I'd go, yeah, right, heard of it thousands of times, but I can't quite pin why.
I guess Maitland is right in the heart of the Hunter Valley. So it's on the Hunter River, and a lot of the Hunter Valley was originally discovered from this area, coming into the river port town of Morpeth, all the cedar cutters up in this area. So it's a really trade-based area, farming, rural, and it's got some deep history. Some historical towns like Morpeth, Lawn, and Maitland CBD are really known for its historical value. And outside of that, you've had a lot of good commercial hubs. We've had, because it is so close to Sydney, it is right at the end of the F3 freeway. It is very connected to the north coast, to Newcastle's big port. And also, straight down to Sydney. It's not too far to get to you guys. It's probably nowadays it's under 2 hours with our traffic links now.
Yeah, wow.
So from a lifestyle perspective, I guess a lot of people come to the Hunter for affordability. They come for open space. They come for lifestyle opportunities, and we're right in the middle of vineyard country, but also the beaches are only 25 minutes from here, with Port Stephens, which is a stunning area. I think at least 3/4 of Sydney holiday in Port Stephens during the summer months. So I think it felt like that in Christmas time. At least 3/4 of Sydney were up, but it's beautiful, clean beaches up here, and sort of I think that the semi-rural marketplace is really what drives this area as well. So if you're looking for a couple of acres with beautiful rural views and you want to get out on some dirt bikes on the weekend and just enjoy yourself, this is the place to come.
Now, a two-tiered question that I've got, one to you and two to Maddie. One is, how have you seen that region change? You've been there, I get, a long time. How have you seen that region change long term and mid term? And then over to Maddie, how have you seen it change in the short term in the last 12 months? So, Chris, how have you seen that region morph or change over like through the 90s to 2010 and then over to the young person?
Yeah, I think that the population increase is really what's driven it. Early 90s, I guess we were tracking at a bit over 50-odd thousand, but now we would be up around the 85,000 people just in the Maitland region itself. So you've seen a huge amount of infrastructure come in here, government spending on roads, the new Maitland hospitals now going in, the major shopping complexes that have come into town with Stocklands and Westfields coming out of Newcastle. You've really seen such a commercial investment into this area. And that sheer population increase because of affordability, because of land that's been available in this area for mums and dads to build investment properties and also family homes. Traditionally you were buying a family home for around $450,000 to $500,000. So the affordable nature of the area has been, I would say, the major driver.
Definitely. I think since I've lived in Maitland for coming up to 9 years now, so only a short period of time, but I think we've had the most change in that time for the Maitland. So as Chris said, the expansion of Stockland Green Hills.
Is that only because you came to the area?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as Chris said, Stockland, when I first came to Maitland, the car park for Stockland Green Hills is now just level 1. So the whole thing is expanded. Yeah. We've got a new Maitland hospital coming in now. So there's a lot of infrastructure spend happening on the area. When I bought my first property only 2 years ago, the entry level for a first home buyer was around $350,000. The entry level for first home buyers we're seeing now is sitting anywhere between sort of 550 and just over the 600. So the change that it's gone through in the last even 24 months has been huge. There was a lot more land available, but as Chris said, I think there's virtually no land left. There's still more estates coming, but obviously as they move through, they're not quite ready. But yeah, there's been a lot of growth that Maitland's happened, and it's really accelerated in the past 2 years.
And how has that been? Is it more of an owner-occupier market, or have you seen, and if not, have you seen a shift of investors looking at properties because the entry point's a lot lower? Like Chris was, say, before 2015, was it a largely owner-occupier market? And do you get many investors? If so, what type of yields and the capital growth they do get?
Yeah, it's a good question because we are seeing a lot of investors trying to get into the Maitland area because of affordability. But what I'm finding at the moment is the owner-occupiers are pushing them out of the market. So for investors, it's a numbers purchase. If it doesn't make sense, they won't move forward. But realistically, we're trying to encourage investors to still proceed with an investment property because of the growth that area will achieve long term. But when you're only renting it sort of $450 a week, and then an owner-occupier is purchasing for around $650, it's not really weighing up like it used to. Probably 2 years ago, yes. But we're seeing more investors trying to build properties out here now, secure some land, do some dual occupancies, because our land sizes, while they are slightly getting smaller, they're still not as small as Newcastle. So we're seeing, between sort of 600 to 800 square metres is your average land size here, and investors are definitely trying to do those dual occupancies type constructions, and they are still progressing and moving forward where it is negatively geared, but the growth of those properties are far outweighing that anyway. So yeah.
Are there adjoining suburbs? Oh yeah, sorry, go on, Chris. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of that investment was driven by mines, with the expansion of the coal mines up in the Upper Hunter Valley, pushing through Singleton, Scone. those sorts of areas. It brought a lot of new people into town. A lot of employment has been driven from our mining industry up here, which means that there's a lot of people with excess capital to spend and looking for ways to gear their long-term future. So a huge amount of properties being bought in super funds and as Maddie said, the way to get affordability and good returns around that is to look at dual keys, duplexes or multi-dwelling that are driving that higher yield. So you can see a lot of properties in this area average 5.5% return on majority of those, and if you're looking and working with an agent who can guide you in the right processes, we can see those returns increase up to 6s and 6.5s if we get the right product for them.
So just if anyone's tuned in, we're talking about Maitland today with River Realty and the features and benefits of what's happening. So what are the key suburbs that support Maitland, or the sort of towns, I should say, that support Maitland, and what would you see the benefits of living in those different areas as well? Just to give, because a lot of the people are from Sydney don't really understand the area. So as a mud map,
Depending on where they're coming from, a lot of our Sydney audience will pick Lorne, Morpeth and Bulwarra. So those suburbs, we understand why they can resonate with some Sydney clients because of their history. They offer a lot of uniqueness in terms of, most of them are over 100 years old. In Lorne, Morpeth is used sort of a bit more of your cottagey style properties. Old Bulwarra is beautiful, but mainly because it's all flat. Most of our clients coming out of Sydney, if they're looking to downsize or they're wanting to live close to shops and not have that driving everywhere lifestyle, they're nice and flat, they're wide streets, they're tree lined, they offer a lot of character. So those three suburbs, they are probably our most expensive suburbs in Maitland, the most prestige areas to live. But that's half the attraction from our Sydney audience. For our families coming out of Sydney, they love to try and grab a nice big acreage, as Chris said, dirt bikes, animals, cows, horses. They just want to jump straight into that lifestyle, which is awesome. So those bigger acreages on the river, but they're only probably 10, 15, 20 minutes out of the Maitland CBD itself. So in terms of schooling, kids' activities, shops, they're not too far away, but you're right out in the country is what it feels like. So they're quite popular. And then for your middle families, East Maitland has always been a massive area that people love to try and get into. It's our fastest growing suburb in terms of its growth. Rayworth is awesome, Bulwarra Heights. So you've got some beautiful little suburbs in and around the area. And then first home buyers, they can be a mix right through all of those properties depending on what they're wanting. And especially renovator style properties are super popular because you can make them your own, but you're also adding value to that property. And if you can pick them up in a key suburb, you're doing really well.
I was going to say, what's sort of the next sort of fit? I know there's a lot happening in Newcastle and that sort of CBD. Is that going to flow on to where you guys are in Maitland, where they're wanting the population? You already said there's been great growth, but are they looking to increase? Because sometimes the council will say these are our 25-year goals. Are they looking to increase the population, say, from 100,000 to 250,000 there? Because you mentioned new estates. Are they unlocking new land to accommodate that growth? Or do you think there's sort of the attitude either amongst the locals to keep it sort of at the level it is and not let it get too much density? Or is everyone sort of like, let's get new business parks in? Because what are the job opportunities? Are people who live locally, are they just retiring? Or they're more working locally, teachers in the new hospital?
Great question for Maitland. Love it.
It really is quite split because we've got such a strong mining culture up here. So employment around the mining territory, but also there is such an entertainment culture too. When you're looking at Port Stephens, Newcastle, and all of the wine country, there's a huge amount of entertainment employment to cater to that marketplace. And when it comes down to your agricultural areas, there is still a lot of farming taking place in this area, whether it's turf farming, whether it's, infrastructure going in. There is a lot of activity. So we've got a huge medical base coming in because you've got a very, very strong medical culture up in this area with the new Maitland Hospital, which is it's massive. The current
how many beds it is
that are in this area, there's a lot going on. So employment from a professional standard is increasing as well with doctors, lawyers, accountants. Because the population is really growing, there's such a deep employment base also of self-employed startups. And I think that what we've seen change in the last 12 months especially is a huge flow-on effect from people that were initially thinking of moving into units, moving into potentially the CBD of Newcastle and even Sydney for that matter. They're looking at potentially even retiring onto some land and some space out in this area. So I would say it's very much a 50-50 young family growing versus the downsizing, retiring type age bracket.
Yeah.
In terms of land releases,
to get back to your land release, I think the big state government question at the moment is how do we get speed to land release, because the amount of land that's being sold in this particular market has been so strong, and the release of land through rezoning has been extremely slow. But there is a lot of greenfield development, which means blocks of land and large subdivisions that are on the agenda for release. It's just, I don't think anyone expected the take-up of that land to be so aggressive post-COVID. And I probably think that they expected it to be on the market for, another, 12, 24, 36 months. But in reality, it's all been taken up this year. And the developers are working hard to lobby New South Wales government to really drive that release of land out in this area. And we're seeing a lot of the major unit developers from Sydney looking at opportunities out here in the Hunter to try and capitalise on some growth.
Just to give you an example on how fast land is selling, we had a land estate that we could not move for how long? Probably 18 months. 12 to 18 months. I think there was about 4 blocks sold. And then post-COVID, I think that whole estate sold out within about a 4-week period.
Wow. How many lots?
So they're generally around 50 lot stage releases. So generally that's about an average release of an estate. And, as Maddie said, pre-COVID, sales are quite, not slow, but just average for this area. But post-COVID, you're seeing 50 lots being sold out, as Manny said, within a 2-month period.
What's interesting there is there's still the same population in Australia. It hasn't changed. So they're actually exiting out of properties to get into those new properties. What's happening with the properties they're exiting out of, which is really interesting.
Well, the good part about it is Bunnings has had a massive uplift in this area. I think everybody throughout the year has been renovating in this area. What we're actually seeing is a better quality of property coming to the marketplace at the moment, because people had that time to spend on value adding, getting great advice from their agent on what they should focus on when it comes to renovating. And we're seeing some fantastic renovations come to the market at the moment, which is great.
I think the flow-on effect for that will probably be in a couple of months' time, because all the land was secured, earlier this year. So construction's starting to take place now, which will be great. So there should be a few more homes, a lot more property coming on later this year, we would expect.
And before we wind out, Bird's got a question for you. But before we wind out, Chris, you've done a lot of humanitarian work in Thailand in the city of Novak. You saved the city from falling back in Thailand, and apparently they've named a suburb after you in Maitland as well. Congratulations. Over to you, Bert. Do you have another question?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, so for that news, the new land lots, what was sort of that entry level and how big were they? And how does that compare to your second-hand market? Because sometimes when you get new lots, new homes, it can throw out of whack your second-hand dwellings. How did you see them both sort of go up together, or the big preference on established owners already in the area buying brand new and building, or were they mainly outer area buyers buying in?
Yeah, I think it's really 50-50.
Yeah.
There's been a strong presence of outer area buyers coming up to buy land up here. Our average lot, is anywhere between, or let's just say 6 to 650 square metres.
Yes.
They were selling out originally last year. Those blocks were selling out for around the early to mid twos.
Yep.
In some of our further outer suburbs, they're selling at around the 200,000. So that's quite affordable for land, which drives that attraction. But since then, we've seen some significant price increases of some land that we've been selling in some blue chip suburbs like Morpeth, with those blocks now, exceeding the $400,000 mark for basically the similar size. So what it's doing, it's driving up prices in general. So your average home for sale in those blue chip suburbs, originally sitting around sort of 650 to 7, we've started seeing those ones push up to, mid 8s to 900. And for, I guess, newer homes in existing areas that are originally selling for around that 650, we've seen them sort of tracking up around the 800 now. So quite a significant increase in price. So for those owners around the Hunter, they've seen a fair bit of growth on their properties in the last 2 years, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. I think that this area will continue to grow, and you will see in time, in the next 2 to 3 years, prices almost catch up to some of our Newcastle, Sydney type pricing. So
do you find those people who have had the strong growth, are they buying back in the market for a second property within the same area, or would they choose to go Newcastle for the people who may own for 10, 15 years, got great equity? Obviously, Northern Beaches, we see a lot of people who've got a house in, say, Narrowena, they buy an investment in DY. Where would your established owners buy an investment? Because I know you said the yields are a bit more properties going towards owner occupier. So are they buying under their nose, or are they going 30 minutes to Newcastle generally?
We're seeing more local investment, I think, because realistically, as we said, the affordability is still here. So we very rarely see an owner sort of jump towards Sydney or Newcastle for an investment property now. I think once you've lived in the area and you've experienced the growth, you tend to stay where you are here, so you can monitor and manage most of the time.
A lot of job relocations take place where they'll hold their property in the Hunter, put a good tenant in it, relocate to Sydney, Newcastle for better job opportunities or whatnot. So we have seen that taking place. We're also seeing a big market in granny flat and also studio accommodation, because traditionally the lots were around that 1,000 square metres. There's a lot of excess land that is still sitting on most primary dwellings. So we've seen a lot of people take advantage of building that second dwelling or putting that studio accommodation in and driving some potential rent yield, or even bringing their parents a little closer to home. And so dual living is now, I'm seeing a lot of that take place where families
and your council is supportive. And your council is supportive, because sometimes some areas council make everything very difficult. So they process the application through a DA or just complying development.
Bit of both. I think council, by and large, have been pretty good to work with in the Maitland region. They are pro development and doing whatever they can to make sure that this area continues to grow. And I think from what I'm hearing, you always hear some of the challenges that are taking place in your harder suburbs. But on the whole, I think that our council has been very good to work with for potential development.
And just finally, just to wrap up, I know a lot of people who, when they think about buying outside of Sydney, they, as an investment, they're worried about vacancy, days on market. Could take 6 months to empty, to fill up. What sort of your days on market for your traditional 600 square meter block home, 4-bedroom? Is it months, weeks, and then
At the moment,
yeah,
days?
at the moment it's days. I mean,
Okay.
There's a huge waiting list for land. We've got hundreds of people on a waiting list for blocks of land. But in saying that, it's still making sure that we're matching the right criteria.
Correct.
When it comes down to rental properties, again, there is availability, but it's important to develop those relationships with your agent to get connected to the right property that suits you. I guess if you're alone out there searching and you don't have a great advisor, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So, I mean, if I was coming to Sydney or the Northern Beaches, there's only one company that I'd be in touch with right now, and that's getting hold of you guys.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Anything else you want to add on to that, Mark? And a little bit.
And having said all of that, yeah, having said all that about Maitland, Chris did say before we started this show he fantasizes about DY, and that DY is the center of the universe, and if he could be married to another, he would be married to DY. So anyone who's watching, it's not all about Maitland, and even Chris.
We love DY. I was born in DY.
Yeah, Maddie's she's originally from the Northern Beaches, so you can see good oil. So yeah, go DY.
It's a great spot in DY.
Yeah, 98.
There's some exciting opportunities down in those Northern Beaches when it comes to being connected to the Novaks down there. It's a relationship and a spot that we value very deeply.
Yeah, and obviously this whole talk is a second best opportunity. If you want the best beaches, job opportunity, hospitals, you buy Northern Beaches. But if you're a second type of person, Maitland's really good. Call Chris and Madison.
Yeah, it's like your second child, or if you can't afford it, go to Maitland.
Yeah.
Just joking. I'm just joking. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you for having us.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy
Take
your
care.
day.
See you guys.
Soon.
You too.
Bye.
Cheers. See you.